From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. We're in week 3 of Mental Health Awareness Month. Everybody get out your Jim's Neurotic bingo cards. I feel like today is going to be a good episode for that. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Some of the patrons may have already won.
Yeah. Again, blackout only. We're not doing...
When you play Jim's Neurotic bingo, it's always blackout. We're not... The game will be over in 5 minutes if we're just doing the straight across squares. Well, so here we are.
Okay.
Just doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
So exciting times that we live in. We're here in the studio. I am muzzled again.
Yes.
Too, so if my voice seems a little bit different. Big, huge news for the podcast. We got retweeted by Dr. Drew.
I saw that.
And liked. He also liked a different post of mine.
Yes.
Which was a comment on one of his tweets. And he clicked like.
Somebody commented, and I'm not sure who did, but somebody commented on Twitter, as a therapist, I'm surprised you haven't had more fulfilling moments in your life. Which I thought was a great reply to Jim's excitement.
Yeah. So what? Oh, that's what it was. So like there was a page on Twitter. It's like podcast movement or something like that, and they just ask questions to basically just get retweeted. But they were like, "Hey, podcasters, tell us in a sentence what your podcast is and what your greatest achievement is." And all these other people are like saying real things. They're like, "Oh, my podcast is about going over different types of chocolate, and my biggest achievement has been reaching this many viewers or whatever, hitting some goal." And it was all actually pretty braggy. And so like I got on there and I'm like, yeah, we're 2 therapists, we answer questions, and our biggest achievement is that Dr. Drew retweeted us yesterday. And I tagged Drew in it, and Drew liked it. I was like, yay! But that was the comment. People were like, yeah, Jesus, I would hope that you've accomplished more than yesterday.
And you were like, nope.
No, I did. I responded. I was like, well, one time 2 bags of Doritos came out of a vending machine. That was a pretty big day.
Apparently, you've never listened to our show.
Yeah, this is
the
highest
highest we've
end.
accomplished more things than that.
So I've also reached out to Drew and asked him to be a guest on the show.
I saw that, and there's no way it's going to happen.
I definitely revealed to him that he has already cameoed for us because some mysterious friend of the show paid him to endorse us.
Right.
Thanks, whoever you are, you noble stranger. And he has not responded. No, he has not.
Weird.
Really?
I've reached out to the Mental Illness Happy Hour. They have not responded. I've reached out to Analyze Pod. They have not responded. So right now I'm batting 0, baby. But you know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Also, I've been reaching out to this ICS show. They've got me on block. So
finally,
yeah,
negative.
It's weird. It's really weird.
They never make the same mistake twice. That's what's going on.
No, they've made the same mistake exactly twice. Exactly twice. We are on In Sepsis and Napoleon Fall Apart Brisket.
Okay.
Those are the 2 episodes that we're on.
Yeah.
I don't know a single episode title from ICS.
I cannot name
I
even
am not
one
even
of them.
kidding.
I don't doubt it. Probably not.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Now, we had a good time. Just shout out to Dr. James O'Hanlon.
We did get on that one, yeah.
In situ Science.
Yeah,
that was fun.
That was really cool. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, Australian zoologist.
Yes.
That was cool.
Everybody listen to that episode.
Yeah, we'll be posting it.
But only that episode. Don't listen to any more.
anything else.
Just the one.
We do not support other people.
You listen to him and you come right back.
You come right back. That's right. Don't like subscribe or anything. Jesus. That might take away minutes from us. Can't have that. No, he's great, man. And a really good show. His show's based on like going into the real life of scientific researchers and kind of introducing them to the public. Kind of a similar mission to us, except he's just trying to broaden the appeal of diverse science and make it accessible. That way nobody's like, oh, science is on this pedestal in an ivory tower. He's like, no, like this applies to your real life. Like it's interesting. And this is really cool. And he's got some really good shows in there and, some fine quality content. And then he slummed it with us. So we've brought the average way down, but it was fun. So we got to talk to him.
It was a blast.
He was in the future. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, he was. He was in the day ahead of us.
Yeah, he was telling us everything was about to happen, so that was pretty exciting. And we also made sure to shout out to Australian listeners of our show, because I'm aware of 2 of them. So I shouted out to them.
We got more than that.
Oh, I hope that we have more than 2 listeners, but I know 2 are from Australia.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so fun times. Thanks for having us, James. And if any of you are out there, Dr. Drew, I'm sure you're listening, call me back, man.
One of these days, I just
Reach
feel
out.
like you're going to get some kind of restraining
Hey,
order.
Yakov Smirnov has been on this show, okay?
Yeah. And
Lori Gottlieb has been on this
he
show.
won't contact us
I know,
anymore,
he
by the way.
He won't talk to us
He's
anymore.
not.
He's realized his mistakes. Yeah, neither will Lori.
Yeah.
She's on to us. People make this mistake one time. That's all right. We had RJ. That got fan favorites. Everybody was really excited about that. So
Yeah, that
RJ
was
slummed
cool.
it up with us. That was a lot of fun.
Yep.
So, yeah, diversity on this podcast. But A-Block, we've got an interesting thing. A-Block. So we've got an interesting thing to talk about. There is, from time to time, these personality tests become really, really big, and a lot of people have heard about Myers-Briggs, and I get this quoted at me a lot. Like, when I meet some patients, I'll ask them, hey, what's going on? You know, what brings us here today? And I'll get to know them. If they're kind of a psychology person or a self-help person, sometimes they'll enthusiastically tell me what their Myers-Briggs is, and they won't unpack it. They'll just say the letters and assume that I know it.
Okay.
They'll be like, yeah, I'm an INFJS. And I'm like, okay.
Isn't that the one where people are just like, yeah, this is bullshit?
Yeah, oh, it's bullshit.
Okay.
It's 100% bullshit. And it's always hard because I'm just like, great. Like, it's like telling me your horoscope. Like,
Okay.
that's...
You should know I'm an Aries.
Oh, I get that too. I get a lot of that. I get a lot of that. People, and that's fine. You know, that's great. I don't care. You know, whatever.
And it does tell you something about them.
It does. Yeah.
It
Oh,
tells you-
yeah. That's true. I am learning.
It's not what they're trying to tell you,
That's
but
right.
it tells you something.
I'm learning. Or you know, it's actually very useful therapeutically because it's kind of like a Rorschach test.
Right.
If they're like, you know, I'm an Aries, and I'm like, oh yeah, my uncle.
Oh,
was
you
an
buy
Aries.
this.
Yeah. Or I'll be like, oh, my uncle was an Aries too. What do you notice about yourself that's very Aries? And there you go. That was an open question for you to go, oh, let me tell you who I am as a person. And I'm taking notes on that. Like, I do want to know who you are. And if the framework that gets you
It
to
turns
teach
out
me
they're
that.
his uncle.
Yeah. It turns out, what, Uncle Jake? Yeah. But, yeah.
The vehicle it arrives in is not as important as the information you
That's it.
receive
Yeah,
from.
so that's fine. I don't care. You know, it's welcome information. So personality tests often fill that role. That I don't think that they tell you a lot, and sometimes they really, really think they can. But you know, they are descriptive, and that's the goal. It's structured description, right? So not all personality tests are bunk. The Myers-Briggs is absolutely. You should never pay for that. But there's other personality tests that actually do have scientific validation, and they're also a little bit more boring, you know, because they don't tell you like something interesting. They just kind of qualify some personality traits that you have, and they're very limited in scope. I think Ocean, the Big Five, is probably the most well-known one. That's a good test. It's real. But it's not sexy. It's not exciting. You don't take it. It tells you that you have antisocial personality disorder. Like, nothing cool happens. But there is one personality test that has become huge, and it's really everywhere. There's podcasts now that are dedicated to it. There's, I don't want to call it a cult-like following, but there is a very strong movement to bring this test everywhere. And there's even support groups that are like incorporating it. There's discussion groups that are all about it. And it's interesting because I think it leads to self-help, and I think that it causes people to be introspective and discuss who they are with other people. So it's very healthy, but it's caught fire, and it's huge. And I know several therapists that swear by it. Like,
Really?
Oh yeah. I know one particular therapist.
Is it
that
the
I used
one
to
we
work
just
with.
did?
Yeah, the one we just did. Yeah,
Okay.
the one I just had you guys do. I have therapists that tell me like,
It'd be weird if it was a different one.
yeah.
No,
Oh no,
well,
no.
it's kind of like
nothing about that.
it's
one.
not this one,
No,
though,
no,
right?
this one. Yeah, I have therapists that I've been in clinical staffing with, and they've not any that you know, and they've been like, yeah, you know, so I always use the Enneagram, and I'm like, okay,
Oh.
and that's how I first heard about it. Cause it's like, what is this? You know, gram sounds scientific, and I'm like, so what is the Enneagram or Enneagram? What the hell is this? I'm like, oh my God, it's this amazing personality test, and it sorts people into 9 different personality, you know, types and traits. But then the best part of it is it has this graph that goes with it. And I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah,
on
I got the graph.
So like the graph thing is like this really cool, like, diagonal circle
To
thing.
describe it for everybody, it's kind of like a pie chart, except all the pies are the same angle. It's just
It's a
pieces
9-pointed
are larger.
star. Think of a
Right.
9-pointed
Okay.
star.
That'd be another way.
That's
Okay.
the design. And
Try
so
to stop me.
that's all I can think about. So this 9-pointed star, the Enneagram, it's God, I don't even know how to spell it. ENNEAGRAM. A lot of people have heard about this. And it's fine. I'm not going to, take a crap on it today. We're going to discuss it. All 3 of us took the test. We're going to discuss kind of what the concept is. But the concept is Enneagram, actually, Ennea, is Greek, as you both know. And it's the Greek number 9. So it's just a 9
Correct.
gram. That's all it is.
Agreed.
Yeah, as we all know. And so it's a 9-pointed star, and basically all the little points is one of these personality types. And the concept is based on what you get, the personality type across from you, you might relate to in certain ways. And it's kind of horoscopy in that way, that they're like, Sagittariuses don't get along with Geminis or whatever, So it's that kind of concept, except it gets a little bit deeper. It also has an argument it basically has this argument that in the design, you have these wings, which are like the personality types to your left and right on the circle. And those are things that like, oh God, what does it say? The types on the side are called wings. It is believed that the wings represent related personality styles, which we can transition into in order to develop new facets of ourselves. Many people identify strongly with the description of one or both of their wings in addition to their primary type, and understanding the influence of the wings can help to add more nuance to one's understanding of themselves. And then the other thing is you have these like triangle, like across from you types. And one of these types is supposed to be a type from your past that you're transitioning away from, and the other type is a type of your future that you should transition toward in order to become a more full human being.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you start over?
All of that seems a little vague, but everybody digs it. And so we took the test, and I have a list here of all 9 of the personality types. And we'll kind of go over everybody's answers.
I like that you have a piece of paper with it while it's just on the screen in front of me.
Yeah. I have a piece of paper. And then I also have the map of all the little personality type numbers on the star. So from the number you tell me that you are, I think I can apparently tell you what your wing numbers are and then what your across from you numbers are. I don't know what those are called. Connecting lines? Okay, we're gonna learn as we go.
Sounds good.
All right, so
when have we ever done
that? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read the 9 types. That way people know what they are, and then we'll reveal, and then we'll discuss. All right. So the 9 types. The number that each type is very important because that's how you locate it on the gram. The Reformer is type number 1. The Reformer is a rational, idealistic type. They are principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic. Huh, that kind of seems like you, Nick. I'll be interested in seeing if you get that.
And that's what number?
That's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is the Helper, the caring, interpersonal type, demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and possessive. Number 3 is the Achiever, the success-oriented, pragmatic type, adaptive, excelling, driven, and image-conscious. Number 4, the Individualist, the sensitive, withdrawn type, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. Number 5, the Investigator. This is intense, cerebral type, perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated. Number 6, the Loyalist. The committed, security-oriented type, engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Number 7, the Enthusiast. The busy, fun-loving type, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. Number 8, the Challenger. The powerful, dominating type, self-confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational. Number 9, the Peacemaker, the easygoing, self-effacing type, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. All right, so those are the 9 types, and then again, there's this 9-pointed star, that's the graph, and based on what type you are, I should be able to look at the graph, figure out the numbers that are your wings, which apparently are supposed to be things you have a lot in common with, like they were close seconds, I guess is the concept. And then your across from you should be, one of them is who you used to be, one of them is who you need to become.
Okay.
I feel like this is really deep.
No, I get it.
All right. That was a lot. So, Nick, what was your thing? Which personality type did you get?
Okay. So.
I think Jacob just voted no.
You were going to guess 1?
Okay.
I think Jim should guess.
We should guess them. All right. So
we should make this at least a little interesting.
Yeah.
Disagree.
When have we ever chosen that path before?
I want you to know the A block Nick proposed was about raising children and how much discipline to bring into their raising of the children.
Oh, we should have done that.
Yeah. For a group of 3 guys, one of whom has children, that would not have been
Honestly,
a
it
good
would have just been us shitting on your idea.
Yes, that's why I moved to this.
Okay.
It's a little bit more interactive.
I vote that we go to that right now.
Let's immediately go to the thing. All right. So I would guess for Nick, of the qualities that I see in him that I think would stand out, I kind of do see the Reformer, the rational, idealistic type, principled, purposeful, self-controlled.
And what was that number?
That's number 1.
Okay.
I could see that. You're not the enthusiast. You're not. Yeah, I think that's probably. Yeah, that or the investigator, which is cerebral, perceptive, innovative. secretive and isolated. Secretive's a strong word. I don't know that you're that. But I think you're very
Well, you
comfortable.
would you?
Oh, shit! That's how he did it!
Boom!
He's a Russian agent. All right. So my bet is going to be either the reformer or the investigator. What was your answer?
1.
The reformer!
Yes.
Okay.
I nailed that shit!
Nailed it.
Oh my god, it is science! It all was just validated! This instrument is now valid. All right, Nick. So you are the reformer. All right, so that's number 1 on my little pointed star. So that means the wings that you have around you are number 9 and number 2. So number 2 is the helper, caring interpersonal type, demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and possessive. Okay, yeah.
Now, mine has a different definition for the number 2 thing.
What is yours?
It says type 2 can be described as the giver. 2s want to be liked and find ways that they can be helpful to others so that they can be loved and belong.
That sounds
Yes.
better. Yeah, that's more. I think that's more of a.
Yeah, like for
Deeper
some reason the thing on mine has it's similar, but it's a little different from what
I printed from a
what you
different
read
website,
earlier.
but yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think these are general category concepts, but then there's and these are like super short descriptions. All right, so according to your number 1 position, your number 2 is the helper, and so that's one of your wings. And then the other one is 9, the peacemaker, which mine says easygoing, self-effacing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. Yeah, that actually sounds fair too. I
Yeah.
like that.
So what I want to know is the opposite then. So the opposites are
Well, I don't know if they're opposites. They
Not
have to do with
opposites,
like
but the-
transition.
But opposites on the
On the
pie
chart.
So
wheel.
then you're
so
opposite
6 and 5.
7 and 4.
6 and
It-
no.
That's how it teaches me to do it. No, it's not directly across.
Oh.
It's a triangle. There's an
Oh.
angle you have to
okay.
draw.
Okay.
So then yours is number 7. So number 7, according to how I think I'm understanding this, yours is literally the example they give to interpret it. They tell you, hey, if somebody's number
perfect.
1. And so it says, okay, here's what it says about the whole like opposite thing. Each basic type in the Enneagram is also connected by 2 lines to 2 other basic types. For example, number 1 is connected to 7 and 4. The first line connects to the type which the person has left behind or repressed in childhood. The characteristics of this type must be reintegrated in order for the person to develop. The second line connects to the type which the person may grow into once they are ready to reach a higher state of development. All right, so your number 7 is the repressed childhood guy that you need to reconnect with in order to grow, and that is the enthusiast. The busy, fun-loving type, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. Does that describe little Nick?
Yeah, old Nick. Okay, yeah. Yes.
Previous Nick. All right, and then the one that's in your future is number 4, the individualist, sensitive, withdrawn, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. So this is apparently something you're supposed to adapt into.
So I should strive to be more self-absorbed and temperamental.
Apparently, these are the characteristics. One of the things that's interesting about this is it's not just flattering, which I kind of appreciate. Like, a lot of times it's like, you're just a great person. Like, that's always what the personality tests are. And it's like, you would be fine being any of those.
Right.
I like that they're like, hey, this is a type of person, and there's good qualities about that, and then there'd be bad qualities about that. Like,
Okay.
you know, if you're an individualist, you're interested in your appearance, but that can also make you shallow, you know. And so, like, okay, you know, so I could see how it goes. All right, so let's do Jacob.
Jacob.
All right, so don't tell us yet.
What am I?
It's gonna be fun. All right, so I kind of think. Okay, so the challenger is powerful, dominating type, confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational. There's a lot of questions in there that are like, hey, will you tell somebody straight up when they're wrong and not give a shit? And I was like, I think Jacob would.
Yeah, that's Jacob.
I think Jacob will let you know. So that's one of my ideas. The challenger. Let's see.
What number is that?
That's number 8.
Okay.
And see, I kind of want you should take this back to ICS and have the guys do it too, because I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I'm
Paul's-
not going to do that.
No, not at all. not even gonna happen. There's one of them. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
Paul's
no.
kind of like that. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's not gonna happen. All right, so Jacob is either, in my opinion, he's either the challenger or no, not that one, not that one. Maybe the reformer, but I think it's probably the challenger. What do you think?
Which one
Nick?
is which?
Number
so you-
1? Number
No,
1
Are you
or
saying 8 or
8.
1?
I think it's 8 or 1. What do you
Okay.
think, Nick?
8.
You think it's
You
8?
think it's 8?
What,
It's 8.
Ah! I'm
Oh,
2 for
2.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Oh, I'm so good at this.
I am
wow.
I'm a 98% match on 8,
Whoa.
but then a 92% match on 3.
Which, okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. Oh.
And then my third place one is actually number 1. It's 80% match on number 1.
Oh, wow. So, okay, according to this, then your wing traits are 7 and 9. So 7, the enthusiast, busy, fun-loving type, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. Okay. And again, I think these wing things, I guess it was saying like these, it is believed that the wings represent related personality styles that we can transition into in order to develop ourselves.
Because according to this one, those are my 2. Well, 9 is my lowest.
It's not saying that these are like second placers. It's saying like you should develop this in yourself to become a more whole human being. Which is pretty fucking vague. But okay.
Well, no, that makes more sense because those are 2 of my lowest ranked things on here.
Oh,
so 9 is my lowest, which is 47%, and 7 is my third lowest at 58%. 4 is
thing is really starting to grow on me, guys. I feel like I shouldn't have doubted it. All right, so he's an 8. So his 7.
No, I'm still not buying it.
His 7 is the enthusiast. So that's the one I just read. No, wait. He's an 8. Yeah. So the enthusiast, busy, fun-loving type, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. It's saying you should develop that a little bit. And number 9, the peacemaker, easygoing, self-effacing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. Interesting. So these are areas that you should grow.
Okay.
There you go. You've been Enneagrammed.
Okay.
All right, fellas, you ready to take a guess on me?
Well, we don't have the sheets, but
let's see. So 2 is the giver, 3 is the achiever, 4 is the individualist, 5 is the investigator, 6 is the skeptic, definitely not that one. 7 is the enthusiast, 8 is the challenger, 9 is the peacemaker, and 1 is the perfectionist. I'm calling 7.
Got a bid on 7. According to mine, 7 is the enthusiast, the busy, fun-loving type, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. Okay.
Yeah, those last 2 are really...
Feels right.
Yeah.
All right, we got a bid on the enthusiast. What do you got, Nick?
I kind of want to say 4.
Number 4 is the individualist, the sensitive, withdrawn type, expressive, dramatic, expressive and dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental.
I started reading that one. I was like, 4, huh?
That's not right.
We have a withdrawn on 4. Okay.
No.
Going for another one.
I also might go with 2.
Number 2 is on mine, the helper. On yours, the giver.
Yeah.
Caring, interpersonal, demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and possessive.
The people-pleasing, but I think you're a pleaser. I think you're a people pleaser.
Oh, I'm very generous in the bed.
Not what I meant.
I think that is.
I don't disagree.
Pleasing
but just
people.
Not what I was talking about.
I think you could be an 8.
Number 8. Yeah, this is now.
That was
all
mine.
of them.
Oh,
the challenger.
Yeah, that's what you.
You
were.
think I'm that? The powerful, dominating type, confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational? I'm not confrontational. I can't tell people no.
I don't know.
See,
I don't think of myself as confrontational at all.
You're direct.
I'm direct.
Yes.
I will tell people when I disagree with it.
Yes.
With them, but I'm not. Confrontational to me is looking for confrontation.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't want confrontation. I never want confrontation.
Yeah, you're not going out of your way,
yeah.
crossing the sidewalk to go start a problem.
And I also won't go out of my way to tell someone that I disagree with them.
Right.
But if it is appropriate for me to, or if I'm asked,
you're comfortable being.
I'm very comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true.
No, I'm going to go with 9. Final answer. Final answer.
Peacemaker, the easygoing, self-effacing type, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. I feel like
says allows others to set the agenda, and since I do the script every week, I feel like that's a good.
That's how we're justifying the answer.
You're going 9. I think I'm sticking with 7. 2 is my second answer.
All right, you're all wrong. So the one that I got, according to the test, which again I still don't feel it was very valid, but whatever, I got the achiever, number 3. Success-oriented, pragmatic, adaptive, excelling, driven, and image-conscious.
Oh, you know what we fucked up on, Nick?
What's that?
This is how he sees himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we completely messed up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is a quiz. This is not a quiz that gives you a definition of what you are like.
I answered the question.
It gives you an idea of your own image of what you are like.
A professional psychologist didn't meet with Jim.
And evaluate anything.
A graduate from Liberty University.
That's right.
Did not sit down with Jim.
Yeah. And a graduate from university or Liberty University is the one who answered the questions, which is dubious at best. So according to that, my wings are 2, the helper. I need to become more caring, interpersonal, demonstrated, generous, people-pleasing in the bedroom, possessive. And then number 4, the individualist, the sensitive, withdrawn, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. And then my opposite ones, 9 and 6. 9, the peacemaker. I guess this is something I was as a child. Is that how it goes? 6 is loyalist.
I don't know. You have the piece of paper.
Yeah. So I guess that's how it works. So then the 1 as a child is the peacemaker, easygoing, self-effacing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. Okay. I don't think I was very agreeable. And then number 6,
Agreed.
the loyalist, committed, security-oriented, engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Yeah, I do get pretty damn anxious. So I don't know. I still feel like this thing is pretty fucking horoscopy.
I think I do too. I think the more important question that should be asked at the end of this, I think the whole thing should be given if you're going to buy into this at all, which I don't know if I do, but if you're going to buy into this at all, I think the whole test should be given as it was to all 3 of us, and then after you are given your results, I think there should be a separate test, like a 5-question little thing there that basically is like, how accurate do you believe your self-picture is?
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good point. To break through any delusions.
Yeah, so like, Jim, how accurately do you think you perceive yourself?
On the number 3?
No, just in general.
Oh, okay. But I don't know.
Or I guess
I don't know. Anybody would have that answer. Because, I mean, if they doubt that they have their own awareness.
Right. That's kind of why I'm asking this, is because I'm curious how all 3 of our answers are going to, if they're all just going to be like, oh yeah, we have great self-pictures.
It's about your self-images. Yeah, I think it is. I think you're always going to answer, but that's the deal of personality tests in general, is like, if there's a way to answer it flatteringly, I think you do. Those questions didn't have a lot of flattering, like, questions to it. Like, it asked, like, are you not obsessed, but like, one of the questions was like, are you fearful? Like, do you fear what could go wrong? And every one of those, I was like, yup. So I got high marks probably on anxiety stuff. And then there's other ones that are like, are you driven? Do you feel like you haven't done enough? Do you wish you could do more? Yeah. And so, like, I'll always indicate, like, yes. So I think that's why I got, like, achiever. Because, like, on the other test, it was, like,
each question there's a range of answer. There's a 5. There are 5 different bubbles you can pick from.
Right.
This is basically from, like, completely disagree to completely agree, with the middle one being neutral.
Yeah. So I think on that test, the bubble, or the 3 achiever thing, I think they called it ambitious. I think on that test it was titled as ambitious.
Okay.
Which is probably true. Like, I do generally try to start projects, and let me write a book, let me start a podcast, like, let me go do this, start a practice. Like, there is kind of this need to do something, and I'll feel like inadequate if I don't. So I guess that's a trait.
And now on mine, if I scroll down on mine too, it tells me a personality superpower, they call it.
Oh yeah, mine was ambition.
Mine
was ambition.
What's yours, Nick?
Optimism.
And mine is discipline.
Oh wow!
Okay.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Now that I do feel is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I am very optimistic about things.
Yes.
I don't get worked up about things. I always kind of have this view, well, things will work out.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And I do not. All of my questions on there, like, do you feel good about the future? I was like, no. We're all going to die.
Well, that's factual.
That is also going to happen. Yeah.
I put a tent around my pool because I was afraid of bees.
Oh, right.
Hey, that pool is kicking ass. Kicking ass. All the haters. And that I got so much love for that tent that I put around the pool.
From your kids?
No, the
from
Twitter,
your family?
On Twitter.
The Twitter people.
People on Twitter.
I'm asking if you got love from anybody who matters.
Everybody thinks it's a great idea.
I actually got upset, and I commented on Twitter. I said, you all need to stop reinforcing his neurosis.
None of you are helping.
Yes, they're all enablers.
My favorite one was Manu, who said, I think that we're all living in 2020 and Jim's living in like 2220. I was like, yeah, this is the future. I figured out how to better pools. You're welcome, America.
So,
how to better pools.
I made it.
If you at home want to take this test, you can go to truity.com, truity.com/personality-test.
Enter Hey Scoops at checkout. Make sure that you sponsor us, Truity. Sponsor this podcast. Give us money.
Yeah, they're right on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, after we just kind of like...
1.7 million people have taken the test on their website in the last 30 days.
I told you, it's huge.
It's blowing up.
That's how I found out. Well, I've known about it for
That's
a while.
according to them.
It was on the New York Times, and they were like, what's the deal with the Enneagram craze? And I was like, what? I was like, I've heard about this from other therapists. I didn't know it was a craze. And I look into it, and it's like, it's everywhere. And then I was like, oh, wow. So there's probably listeners to the show. They're like, yeah, I've done it. And again, I'm not anti it. I like anything that causes self-contemplation and reflection and discussion. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what this test just did.
I think I might be kind of anti it.
Yeah.
Because I think that I am kind of I'm undecided largely on this. I'm mostly undecided on this, but I think I'm leaning towards anti.
Too horoscopy?
Well, there's that as well, but I think that anytime something tries to give you an answer on that, I think that might do a little bit of harm more than it does good.
That's a good point.
I think anytime a test tries to put you in a box with a label,
also if a test is prescriptive, and that's what's a little bit weird about this one, is it's like you should be endeavoring to be your wing.
I don't like that part at all.
Your future self is ahead of you as a 7. You need to embrace that. And like they're all qualities that are in the human spectrum of personality.
Right.
Like you becoming more of a peacemaker, okay,
fine.
That's You want to be a whole person. I'm sure there are times when being a peacemaker would be good. I'm sure there's times like you could say, "Oh, Jim, you need to learn how to be the challenger, right? Because that's not a role I enjoyed being in. So you need to grow in that." Okay, I don't need a diagram to tell me that. Like when I was running a rehab, I had to learn how to flex that muscle effectively.
Right.
And I did it in that context, and then didn't do it when I didn't have to.
Right.
There you go.
And I can tell you, as someone who obviously we all grow and mature through our lives. Like, there were times in my life that I was much more of a challenger.
Okay.
That I was much more aggressive in that role.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you don't want to be overly aggressive in that.
Sure.
Like, that's easy to be overly aggressive in.
Yeah, it can quickly tip over.
Yeah. Like you turn into an asshole real easy with that.
Yeah, and that's where I think, like, the 9 points, that's fine. It's interesting. I think there are going to be things that you are more of than other things, and it did a good job of finding that. And I think once you get that piece, you're like, oh, that's kind of true of me. The problem is a test like that, then you assume the rest of it's true. Because it identified you in the lineup, then you go, oh, so I must need to grow into this other direction because the test was right about the first thing. It's not hard to figure out which bucket you fall in.
Sure.
You could have probably just looked at the list and told us.
Sure.
You probably didn't need to take
It's the reverse of what I do with the online rankings lists. Anytime somebody releases like, oh, here are the 10 greatest mobster movies of all time.
Okay.
M-O-B, not monster, but mobster.
Mob.
Yeah. I'll look at that list. I'll be like, oh, I love mob movies.
Yeah.
Let's see who made the list here. Oh, look at that. Godfather and Godfather 2 are at the top of the list. Goodfellas is at the top of the list there. That's good. Okay. Oh, we got Godfather 3 at number 6 on the list. We're putting Godfather 3 in the top 10?
Yeah.
Well, this list is useless. Because this list was obviously made by an idiot who says that Godfather 3 is the 6th best mobster movie ever made. So this is stupid. But you're right, because this is having kind of the reverse effect of that. That's like, oh,
bias.
here it is. Like, I found one thing that's accurate, so some of these other things are probably accurate as well.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because
because I'll look at things, I'm literally like, if I find one thing in this whole
then
bit that I think is just idiotic,
it just disqualified the entire
the whole thing's out.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like, I'm throwing out the baby.
That's exactly how I think these kinds of things work, though, which is not wrong. Like, I'm fine with it. Just let's identify what's causing you to feel confident about it.
Right.
It's because it started with self-recognition. And once you looked at it and said, yes, I am that, then you assume the rest of the proposal is right. That's a little bit more bold. Yeah, so I think I'm with Jacob. I think it not bad. It's fine. Starts up a good conversation, gets people talking about growth, identifying areas of their life that are like, yeah, I need to be more of this. Okay, great.
But I feel like most people who take these types of things don't then have a conversation about it.
No, right.
Yeah.
If you're going to start a conversation with this tool, if it's going to be a tool to start a conversation, fine.
Yeah, take it and then go to your therapist and be like, I took this test. And you know what? I realized I need to learn how to be a challenger more. And like,
fine.
Great.
Yeah,
Let's identify what your hang-ups
have
are.
that conversation.
Yeah, again, the vehicle that it comes in
Yep.
is not as important as the information that
Absolutely.
is delivered.
Yeah.
So but yes, I would agree. I think most people probably don't
They probably
go into this for conversation.
They're
No,
taking it in their
Yeah.
they're taking it in their home office and at their home PC.
I'm telling you guys, it's a thing. It's a craze. There's like discussion groups and podcasts about it. If you
Now there's one more.
Yeah. Made my heart sink a little bit. Play us out.
And that's only your fault.
I did this.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss a relationship affected by Corona. You're listening to Pod Therapy. This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Robert Brownie Jr. Mint. Today's first question in honor of Robert Brownie Jr. Mint. In 1893, which country became the first to give women the right to vote?
What year was that?
1893.
Wow. That's
First country to give women. Yeah. Okay.
Senegal.
No. If you'd like to
Finally.
join Robert Browning Jr. Minutes and make the show possible, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
Huh.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about a relationship affected by Corona.
Yeah. See, I'm pro women's suffrage.
Oh, way to take a stance.
Yeah, I'm gonna not wait on this one. I'm coming out strong. I'm pro women's suffrage. I think women need to suffer.
My next question was going to be, you know what suffrage means, right?
Yeah,
Because I just wanted to make
pain,
sure.
agony.
Right.
They have it too good, Nick. That's what
This is why I don't let you speak for us on the web.
the position of Pod Therapy. We are pro the suffrage.
What
of
year
women.
did you say?
1893.
The first
found it.
country
That's
that
interesting.
Found it?
allows.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the first country that said it's cool for
can
women to vote.
Yes, first
amazing
country.
that
The
it was
first self-governing
1893.
country in the world in which all women had the right to vote.
Wow. That's like a little over 100 years ago that it was like the first place where women could. That's insane. It's insane that like universally they just.
I
couldn't
still
vote.
don't know which
it's
side of the
smaller.
line you're on. I'm still trying to figure that out.
You guys see it, right? You see why this is amazing. Like, I mean, it's amazing fact.
It's amazing how a little over 100 years ago, this is when things took the turn.
Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Can you believe it? I'm shocked. Right, guys?
Right.
You guys all see the same point of view I'm seeing, right? All right. Hey, Pod Therapy guys. I'm a longtime ICS listener. Great. Thanks for writing in. Why do we need to know that? I'm a longtime ICS listener.
It's assumed.
They all are. Who found Pod Therapy by that avenue? Oh, thanks, Jacob. Every time this comes up, we have to like throw change in a jar. There should be like a coin drop. Ching! All right. Who found Pod Therapy by that avenue? And I've been listening regularly for several months now. Having discovered therapy late in my life during some difficult transitions, I really enjoy your light and serious approaches and the variety of subjects the show hits on. I never thought this would be the first podcast I'd end up writing into, but here we are. First, as background, my marriage ended in 2017 after 17 years, and I have two wonderful daughters who are in their upper teens. This process was my first encounter with therapy, both as a couple and individually, and the key takeaway from my side was a realization that I have a tendency to make my feelings and opinions subservient to my partners in a relationship. I grew up Catholic, though now I'm an out atheist, but still have a strong sense of duty to put others' feelings first, and and a residual tendency to feel guilt if I don't. With the help of my therapist, I was able to work myself up to a more confident state and resume dating. Sound effects are wonderful for this bit. Within a few months, I met a woman with whom I instantly clicked. That relationship lasted over a year, with a very good balance between us, so that I always felt comfortable expressing myself and not having to put myself second. Of course, sometimes I did, but never out of a sense of duty, but as a partner. Unfortunately, this relationship ended suddenly in November 2019. It hit me really hard, but that's another story. I worked through the grief over the holidays with therapy, friends, and getting myself a dog. Always a good choice. In January, so now we're in 2020, in January, I was feeling together enough to start dating again. There were a few series of online conversations that never turned into dates, and eventually I met with one woman, and we dated about 2 weeks before I cut it off due to some clear incompatibilities. In late January, I met the woman I am currently dating. We hit it off pretty well. We had several dates over the weeks, and I had invited her to meet most of my friends at our annual St. Patrick's Day pub crawl when the coronavirus hit and shut down New York State, where we live. As New York entered the shelter-in-place phase, we were no longer able to see each other in a way that allowed for touching, hugging, kissing, etc. I share custody of my teenagers with my ex, who is immunocompromised due to a chronic illness, and she shares custody of her toddler with her ex, who has two older children as well, and sometimes has her toddler stay with her elderly parents. We made the logical choice, therefore, to not link these circles for potential transmission through us. So we have fallen back on texts, phone calls, and Zoom chats for the entirety of our relationship. Over the weeks, I've started to realize and focus on some incompatibilities between us. She's an extrovert and having a hard time not being around people, where I am an introvert. We talk all the time, but I don't feel like we communicate on a level that fulfills me. Early on, I had to think hard about getting involved with a woman with a toddler when my kids are almost out of the house. That choice is weighing on me too. I'm in my mid-40s, so that would be a commitment until I'm almost 60. Finally, here is my quandary in question. Absent quarantine, the way I'm feeling now, I think I would exit this relationship. But since we are in this situation, I'm hesitating communicating my concerns because she is stuck alone with a toddler through all of this, is also prone to anxiety, and has a history of postpartum depression. In normal times, she would be hurt, but has a family and friends network that would easily get her through it. Am I just falling back into that pattern of putting my feelings second in an unhealthy way? Or maybe these concerns are just a function of an underlying quarantine depression. Should I stick it out until we can see each other under normal circumstances and then see if things are different then? Or own my feelings now and risk the potential consequences on her end? Thanks for reading all this. Keep up the great work. Regards, Chris. That's a very good question.
That is a good question.
And a good background information, too.
Yeah.
Like, everything in that letter was very relevant to understanding exactly where the question was going to end up.
So, to kind of summarize all that,
Yeah.
here's kind of the question, or here's how I'm understanding this. Do I break up with her now,
Mm-hmm.
but then she's got a whole bunch of stuff that she's going to have to deal with on her own with this quarantine, and then we're kind of wondering, am I putting somebody else's needs above mine? Or do I wait it out and see if things get better post-quarantine?
Yeah.
But it almost kind of sounds like that's not likely to happen in his mind. Is that the sense you got? Because I kind of got the sense that the first option is it should probably end because we're incompatible.
Yeah.
But then he's also later kind of hedging the bet a little bit, like, but maybe it's just the quarantine thing, and maybe once the quarantine's over, then things will work out.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are in this position, and I'm hearing about it a lot, where people are like, I was just dating somebody, and we were at whatever phase of dating, and then the quarantine happened.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, I've seen them be like, well, we were far enough along that we said, let's move in together during the quarantine. And so I've seen couples go that route because they weren't ready to.
Just had a conversation with a couple about that 2 days ago.
How are they doing?
Ups and downs.
Yeah, right. Because it's too soon. And, like, you jump into it because you're like, well, our option, like, it's shit or get off the pot time. Like, either we're going to go all in and have a relationship, or we risk losing everything that we've built, because of the weird embargo. And so this guy's in that situation, too, except he wasn't far enough along to move in together, so they had to separate. And now they're only communicating by all these, not good methods. And now he's looking at that and going, well, geez, like, I don't feel very close to her. I don't feel compatible. I don't feel like I'm getting what I need out of the relationship. I would break up. But then he's also wise enough to say, okay, but honestly, this is the weirdest possible time.
Right.
And previous me really dug her. Me in the wild under normal circumstances, I liked this girl. We were moving in a great direction. And now this, how do I know how much of this is honestly not a good fit and how much of this is the effects of quarantine?
Right.
And he also mentioned, what if I'm depressed? He said, what if I'm going through my own quarantine depression? And how do I know if I'm seeing this accurately?
To make it even more complicated, then you've got his own issues that he's working on, which is putting other people's needs above his own.
Right, exactly.
And then that just
so now he
makes
doubts
it
even
more.
that. He's like, well, should I even doubt these feelings? Because is this me just putting other people ahead of me? Like, it's a good question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of layers to this.
And what about the dog's feelings?
Oh, shit.
Got to work it out for the dog.
Oh, that's why Jacob's here.
Work it out for the dog.
You got life coach, dude. So yeah, that's a good question, man. So a couple of feedback pieces on this generally. When I'm seeing relationships, and that's one thing that's surprising me about the quarantine. I expected that I would see a huge surge of anxiety and a huge surge of depression, right? Because people are directly affected, they're scared to die, and they are sad because they're losing their livelihoods, their homes, everything, right? So we're dealing with that. The one area that I didn't expect to see a surge in, but there has been, is marital counseling, couple and family counseling. Huge.
Because they're locked in the house together?
Yep. And like now I'm seeing all this, like, we're going to divorce talk, and like I'm constantly putting out fires, and like they're saying, no, this has revealed it to us. Like, this situation has revealed. And I always am like, hey, let's be careful not to use that term.
Right.
When you're living in bizarro world that looks nothing like real life, let's be careful not to draw any permanent conclusions about other humans during this time. Right? Like, you would get the wrong idea of who Jim Jobin is as a man if your sample size was the Corona era.
Right.
Oh, I
Okay.
don't know about that. I think that might be the exception there.
Well, maybe not Jim.
Not a good example.
But so I do think
It is kind of like meeting
bad
somebody like for the first time in a plane crash.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like you're kind of seeing like that's not who they are
Yeah.
all the time.
Right. It's a situational thing.
Yeah.
And so, but this is where the writer, I think Chris is having that question inside of himself of like, all right, but like what percentage of this is how you really are? What percentage of this is we're not connecting right now because we can't in this era? And I would like you and did like you under normal circumstances and will want to be with you when that resumes.
Sure.
It's all these question marks. And so in an experiment like this, when you have so many question marks, my general guidance to people is I hate to see people make huge life choices during a crisis.
Right.
That's almost always how I feel.
Right.
And it's the same advice you and I give people in early sobriety.
Right.
You know, whenever they have a week clean and sober, we're like, hey, we usually anticipate it and go, just so you know, over the next coming months, now that your head's clear, you're going to start having thoughts. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to get a divorce. I'm going to marry my girlfriend. I'm going to, move across country. I'm going to move to Alaska. I've always wanted to be, an off-road trucker or whatever, ice road trucker. And so, like, you're going to have all these interesting ideas. I forbid you from making any decisions for a year. Like, that's usually what we tell people is like, please don't do anything big. You can't trust your judgment right now. Let's get you at a new baseline. And then we'll let future you make some big choices.
Yeah, because people tend to make decisions based out of emotion, not logic.
And of course.
Right.
And you're in an era of change whenever you're sobering up. And I would argue that the coronavirus era is an era of change and uncertainty that I would caution against making big life choices during if it can be avoided.
No, we usually give that advice with the understanding that by not making a decision, you typically don't make the situation worse.
Yeah.
Inaction typically doesn't make the situation worse. What tends to make the situation worse is
doing
action
Right.
based off of emotion,
Yes.
not logic. So if you can't make a logical decision, sometimes doing nothing is a good thing to do.
It is.
Now, what about in this particular situation where he's also got that other issue, which is putting other people's needs above his?
Yeah.
Because the inaction could be his own way of not making a decision. That way he's saving her from pain
Yeah.
or discomfort.
And if I was your therapist and you've had one before, you've done that work, based on the very limited information that I have here, and quick disclaimer, Pod Therapy does not do therapy, it's an education show. But if you were in my office and we were talking about this, I would probably say, so for me, I want you to be your authentic self, okay? And if your authentic self is you tend to put other people's needs ahead of your own, you tend to be very empathic, and you feel more settled and congruent when you have thought through other people's emotions and you've taken care of them. That's a legitimate human perspective. I'm not here to tell you something's wrong or broken with you.
Mm-hmm.
Where that is problematic is if that has caused harm in your life. If you were in toxic relationships where people were taking advantage of you, being hurtful to you, you were malnourished in your relationship needs and couldn't do anything about it because you were so overwhelmed with taking care of them or whatever, as a therapist in that situation, be like, hey man, I'm worried about you. Like, let's talk about putting your needs first, right? He's not describing a toxic or abusive relationship in this situation.
Right.
It's awkward at best. And so, like, in that situation, I'm not, ringing the alarm bells and going like, Chris, you got to be really careful, man. You know you have this tendency. This is a really big deal, buddy. Don't do that. I'd be like, who cares, man?
So that's less of an issue right now
I'm not worried about
than
it.
anything else.
Yeah, even if you accidentally are full-blown regressing 100% and putting her feelings above your own, it's fine. She's a nice girl. She hasn't done anything to you. Like, if she's abusing you or being terrible to you or actively antagonizing you or, it's toxic in some way, then I'm like, hey, man, recognize this pattern because it's going to get you in trouble.
In one sense, it's almost kind of hard for her to do that given the quarantine.
Right. Yeah. It's demoted. The relationship is demoted to like an unfulfilling friendship with some flirting. Right. And I get it. That is unfulfilling. You're describing it accurately. I don't think that you should wonder at this time. Well, you're allowed to wonder this, but I wouldn't conclude she's the problem.
Right.
If you had the love of your life and we took you across the world and you could only talk to the love of your life on phone calls and Zoom meetings, you'd feel unfulfilled. Sure. And you might even meet somebody else in that other place and like move on and be like, how could I possibly do that? I was in love with that person. Like, yeah, because this is not how humans are supposed to be in relationship. We're tribal creatures. Like, we're around each other. Technology is unfulfilling in this sense for most people.
Right.
You know, he mentioned like incompatibilities too, like extroversion versus introversion.
Uh-huh.
I always think that's an interesting discussion. You know, I've met with some couples during the Corona thing that have been saying things like, what I've realized during this quarantine is that we are incompatible. They are different than me. I am different than them. We value different things. We think differently. And because we don't naturally think the same way, we're not kind to each other the way we need to be. And therefore, this needs to be a divorce. Like, we need to give up and walk away. And I've always found that to be a complex kind of thing, right? Because I do think there's something to be said for compatibility. I do think that goes a long way in helping people, you know, make it, right? Because some relationships are very natural and some of them are not. And like, I think there's an argument to be said for that. I'm also A, an optimist, and B, as a therapist, a believer that all humans can change. If they're motivated, they can.
Yeah.
And any weird relationship can be reformatted to get you results, you know, if that's what you want. So this is a good question on compatibility. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was just thinking, like, yeah, you can learn a lot. Like, I think about that too. Like, how compatible are Laura and I in the middle of an apocalypse? Probably not very compatible.
You're fighting over $1 million mansions you don't have.
Yeah, exactly. But as long as we're not in an apocalypse, we're fine.
You're fine.
And if we are in an apocalypse, we got bigger shit to worry about.
Yeah. This is a weird sample size.
It is, it is really weird to make big relationship decisions in a time like this because it's so rare. And yes, if you realize throughout this that you don't do well together, locked in a house together for 2 months. Yeah, that's a kind of expected.
Right.
You know?
Well, and also, if there's a one of these days I want to do an A block where I pull out the list of top factors that lead to divorce. And so there's a list of, you know, and this is statistically evident that when divorces happen or when, you know, relationship sadness or, you know, whatever occurs, there's usually certain stressors, just like our shooter analysis. You know, shooters tend to have certain stressors. The same thing exists for relationships. And economic strain and financial despair is way up there, like on the top of the points. And so any relationship that's going through economic hard times, it's becoming strenuous to the relationship.
Right. So he wouldn't be in any real high-risk situation if Chris decided to do nothing.
I don't think
just write it out.
Yeah.
And if he's still having these thoughts post-quarantine, then you can address it at that time.
I mean, if you want to date other people, like if that's something you like authentically want to do, and this is stopping you from doing that, and you want to go do that or download the apps and start talking to people, if it would be dishonest for you to do that, then yeah, I guess it's fine. But the thing that he did say that I thought was very intelligent is he's like, well, this child thing is interesting. She has a toddler.
Okay, yeah. So
and I don't want to be 60 raising her kid. That's a good question.
And that's something that should be
That's a different question, but it's
different.
That's a good one.
It's a good question. But this is where I want, if there's one therapeutic piece of advice I'd give to Chris, do not misunderstand this moment and this decision as if it's this world-ending permanent one. I don't want you to give too much to this. Like, you're asking good questions. You seem like an analytical guy. I think you're taking the relationship seriously. You don't have a wedding date, okay? It's not like you're on your way into the altar here. I think that it's a strange time. You can just kind of sit still. Patience is a choice. Inaction is an action. It is one of the things you can do. And I think it has its own, like, pros and cons. In this case, I think it's right. I think doing nothing is usually the right call for right now.
Yeah.
Unless you want to start dating other people and you think that you'll get more out of that, then you have to challenge yourself and ask, why am I scared to break up with somebody? Am I scared to hurt them? You know, and okay, is that allowed to be true? Is that authentically who I am? But can I also tell myself that I'm doing less damage to them by releasing them from this relationship? I'm not choosing to reject them. I'm just noticing we're not compatible. So, good things. Also, don't forget you can talk to your therapist online. You could do Zoom or you could do phone with them too. So we always defer to the therapist.
And you can use
that
as an excuse. You can say, sorry, I can't talk to you on Zoom right now. I have to Zoom my therapist.
Yeah, I have a guy doing that right now.
There you go.
Yeah, his wife reached out. She's like, my husband talks to you like 8 times a week. And like, I just feel like that's and I can't confirm or deny anything, but he's lying. That's not true.
But he's definitely lying.
He's definitely lying. Like, I'm just like, okay. Because he don't want to talk to her. So he's like, yeah, my therapist. That's one of the hardest things ever. I want a disclaimer on my website that says, if your loved one says I say things about you, that's not true. Because like people do this all the time. They turn a therapist into a
yeah.
puppet, and they're like, "Well, Jim really thinks that we should not see each other anymore, or Jim really thinks that you're too combative," and they just use me to say the things they want to say, and I didn't say any of that. But because of HIPAA, I can't say that I didn't say that.
You can't defend yourself.
I hate couples work. I just want to work with individuals. Anyway, good luck to you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for writing in,
Do
Chris.
nothing.
Keep us posted. Do we have time for another one?
Yeah, I don't think
we got
so.
like 5 minutes.
No.
So, okay,
We'll wrap it there.
We'll wrap it here. Okay, well, we're going to take
By
our
the way, I
last
think
break.
Chris is a 7.
Oh,
Whatever that was.
see? The Enneagram thing matters. Wait,
I don't know
7?
what it is.
The enthusiast.
I'm just picking a number.
I think Chris is the helper. Yeah.
There you go. Great.
Yeah.
There you go. All
Number
right.
2.
See, you thought we wouldn't use this information.
It's immediately applicable.
All right, we're going to take a break.
No, we're not.
And then we're going
end
to
the
come
show.
back, and then we're going to end the show. All right. Today's second trivia question, in honor of THERAPRODUCER Kayla Lansbury, is...
Get good at this.
Hold
Stretching on that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
He's so good at script writing,
Hold.
delivery.
Oh, my God. No.
All right, what's the under-over on how long this takes? I'll bet you the song finishes.
In 1893, Kayla Lansbury was actually the first woman to cast a vote
Wow.
in the country that allowed her to vote.
Wow.
Who is she?
Oh. Boom.
Okay.
That's great.
There we go.
That's
Good job.
great.
All right.
And also, Jacob will know if you get it right because he was there. He is the highlight.
If you'd like to join Kayla Lansbury and make the show possible, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy. And thanks for signing up.
All right, wrap-up announcements here. Go to In Situ Science and listen to us with Dr. James Hanlon. We will be posting it on all of our media outlets as well, so you can definitely check us out there. We want to thank James again for having us. We want to thank some new supporters. We have a new THERAPAL. Okay, I'm going to go for it. Tristan Novakshonoff. Nailed it.
Novakshonoff.
Shut up. New THERAPOD.
I think that's it.
Lauren Izzo is in the hizzo. You see what I did there? Because it's
Yes, we saw it.
like a house.
We saw it.
Oh, man, I'm so good at this. And we want to thank our bosses, the Elite Eight, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club. We're talking about THERAPRODUCER, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, a little bit of Robert Brownie Jr. Mint. Okay? I'm talking Kayla Lansbury, who's from the Civil War era, I think. Is that the Civil War era? 1890s?
No.
Ellie O'Dare was there. Judy Schneider knows what's up. Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop still puts up with us. Dr. Ben Don and his toxic friendship with Nick has endured. Ex officio board member Crazy Banana Scoop. If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited, and why wouldn't you? And enjoy our spontaneous side projects, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy. And thank you all for putting up with us for another week. That's all the time that we have for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, who I'm sure some of you don't listen to. And thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the subscription in your podcast app, copying and pasting that link we provided to you for your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tanchman.
I'm Harriet Tubman.
Thanks, and we'll see you
First
for your
woman to
appointment
vote.
next week. I don't think so.